That new, ugly loop, that's not a temporary glitch. That is a permanent renovation of your mind's architecture. We throw around rewiring your brain as a metaphor. It is not a metaphor. It is a literal, physical, electrochemical construction project. The problem is, you're not the foreman. Alcohol is, and it is building circuits not for liberation, but for enslavement. Not for power, but for predictable, automated collapse. I am Napoleon inspires, and today we will enter the microscopic war zone of your own cranium. We will map the 5 deadly neural circuits that alcohol is cementing into your biology right now, circuits that will run your life long after you put the glass down. Circuit number 1, the Anxiety Amplification Loop, building a self-powered panic room. You drink to soothe anxiety. This is the great, tragic lie. Alcohol doesn't soothe anxiety. It designs a more efficient anxiety machine. Here's the brutal neuroscience. Acute action. Alcohol boosts GABA, your brain's main brake neurotransmitter, and suppresses glutamate, your brain's main accelerator. This is the sedative effect. You feel calm. The rebound. Your brain hates imbalance. To compensate, it downregulates GABA receptors, making your natural brakes weaker, and upregulates glutamate, making your accelerator hypersensitive. The new normal. As alcohol leaves your system, you're left with a brain that has weak brakes and a hair trigger accelerator. This is a biochemical definition of anxiety, panic, and overstimulation. This state is called neuronal hyperexcitability. But here is where the rewiring happens. You then drink again to silence this louder anxiety. This reinforces the cycle. Every repetition deepens the glutamate pathways and further atrophies the GABA pathways. You're not calming down. You're digging the trench of your anxiety deeper and paving the walls with each cycle. You're literally constructing a neural highway where the only off-ramp is the very thing that caused the traffic jam. This is the anxiety circuit, and it becomes a permanent, low-grade hum in your baseline consciousness. Circuit number 2, the pleasure-poverty loop, sabotaging your own reward system. Your brain's reward circuit, ventral tegmental area, nucleus accumbens, prefrontal cortex, is a sacred system. It releases dopamine not just for pleasure, but for motivation, pursuit, and achievement. It is the seek and find circuitry that drove human exploration and creation. Alcohol hijacks this circuit with a violent shortcut. It causes a tsunami of artificial dopamine, far greater than what natural rewards, a good meal, a triumph, a hug, provide. Your brain, to protect itself from this flood, downregulates dopamine receptors. It mutes the volume on its own reward speakers. Now, natural life, conversation, accomplishment, beauty sound like a whisper. The only thing loud enough to register is the dopamine blast of alcohol. This is rewiring. You are physically pruning the neural connections that find joy in subtlety and complexity, while strengthening the single, monolithic pathway that screams drink. The result is anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure. Hobbies fade. Relationships feel flat. Ambition dies. You have not become lazy. You have surgically disabled your own internal motivator and replaced it with a chemical slave driver. Circuit number 3, the Memory Fragmentation Network, dissolving the narrative of self. Memory is not a filing cabinet. It is a dynamic, reconstructive process. The hippocampus captures an experience, and over time, through a process called memory consolidation, it is transferred to the cortex and integrated into your life story, your continuous narrative of you. Alcohol disrupts this process at every stage. It blocks long-term potentiation, LTP, the cellular mechanism for strengthening synaptic connections, the basis of memory formation. It shrinks the hippocampus, the very organ of memory. It prevents the shift from short-term to long-term storage. But the rewiring is more sinister. Experiences you have while intoxicated are not just forgotten. They're stored in a corrupted, fragmented format. They're like data files saved with no metadata, no timestamp, no emotional context, no connection to other memories. Your brain, seeking order, begins to form aberrant connections between these fragments. A smell, a song, a place can trigger a disembodied flash of emotion. Shame, anger, euphoria, with no story attached. This creates a psyche that feels haunted by ghosts of contextless feeling. You are not forgetful. You are actively dismantling the coherent timeline of your own identity and building a network of emotional landmines in the ruins. Circuit number 4. The executive override, short-circuiting your free will. Your prefrontal cortex, PFC, is the CEO of you. It handles executive function, decision-making, impulse control, long-term planning, and moral reasoning. It is the seat of your sovereign will. Alcohol doesn't just temporarily inhibit the PFC with repeated use. It kills PFC neurons through neurotoxicity and inflammation, disconnects the PFC from the deeper emotional limbic system, the lizard brain, strengthens the direct pathways from the amygdala, fear/desire, to the motor cortex, action. This is a hostile corporate takeover. You are physically dismantling the boardroom and giving direct control of the company to the panicked, reactive security guards. The rewired circuit is simple. Stimulus, stress, boredom cue, amygdala, panic/desire, action, reach for drink. The CEO, PFC, is bypassed entirely. This is the neural basis of loss of control. You are not weak-willed. You are operating on a brain where the circuit for willpower has been physically severed and replaced with an autopilot of compulsion. Circuit number 5, the spiritual short circuit, the thalamic gatekeeper, and higher frequencies. This is the most profound and least discussed circuit. Deep in your brain sits the thalamus. It is not just a relay station. Modern neuroscience and ancient mysticism converge on a stunning idea. It is the gatekeeper of consciousness. It filters the overwhelming flood of sensory data from the world, allowing only a tiny, relevant fraction to reach your conscious awareness. In deep meditation, prayer, or flow states, this filter is believed to thin, allowing a more direct, unfiltered experience of reality, a connection to the sublime, the intuitive, the universal. Alcohol doesn't just cloud this filter, it shatters its calibration. It doesn't thin the filter to allow higher data in. It jams the gate with chaotic, low-grade static. It scrambles the thalamic rhythms, preventing the coherent, high-frequency brainwave patterns, like gamma waves, associated with peak insight, mystical experience, and transcendent unity. The rewiring here is a learned deafness to subtlety. You strengthen neural pathways that interpret the world as loud, jarring, and demanding of numbness. You atrophy the pathways fine-tuned to perceive the quiet, the beautiful, the sacred, and the interconnected. You are not losing your spirituality. You are physically decommissioning the biological antenna designed to receive it. The recovery is not about stopping. It's about rebuilding. Knowing the circuits of destruction is useless unless you know how to become the foreman of your own reconstruction. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire, is your weapon. It works both ways. Phase 1, demolition and detox, weeks 1 to 4, starving the bad circuits. The glutamate GABA reset. Use magnesium L-threonate and L-theanine. These naturally support GABA and calm glutamate storms, helping to manually reset the anxiety loop you've built. Dopamine receptor sensitivity. Prolonged dopamine fasting. Not just from substances, but from hyperstimulation, social media, junk food, porn. You're forcing your brain to rediscover subtle rewards. Neuroinflammation quelling. High-dose omega-3s, EPA/DHA, and turmeric. Put out the inflammatory fire that is eroding your neural structures. Phase 2. Active rewiring, months 1 to 6, laying new tracks. PFC reconstruction, deliberate, effortful focus. Learn a complex new skill, language, instrument, chess. Practice making small, deliberate decisions against habit. Every time you choose water, you are not just saying no to a drink. You are firing and wiring the PFCs I decide circuit, hippocampal regrowth, aerobic exercise, and spatial navigation, running, swimming, hiking, even using a new route to work. This is the single best stimulator of hippocampal neurogenesis, building new memory cells. Thalamic recalibration, sensory deprivation, and silent meditation. Float tanks, dark room retreats, or simply sitting in silent darkness for 20 minutes a day. You're not seeking an experience. You are forcing your thalamic gatekeeper to reset in the absence of overwhelming junk input. Phase 3. Sovereignty integration, ongoing, becoming the architect. The identity narrative repair. Start a meaning journal. Not a diary of events, but a journal where you consciously connect the dots. Today's challenge taught me X, which relates to my past experience of Y, and guides me toward future Z. You are manually performing the memory consolidation and narrative integration that alcohol destroyed. Spiritual circuit activation. Practice all walks. Go into nature not to exercise, but with the sole intention of finding something that fills you with awe, the pattern on a leaf, the scale of a tree, the play of light. You are consciously exercising the atrophied circuits of sacred perception. Your brain is not a static organ. It is a living, breathing construction site. For years, you have allowed a vandal to be the lead contractor. The vandal's blueprints lead to a prison. The good news? You have just found the vandal's plans. You now know the 5 faulty circuits he's building. You hold the innate, neuroplastic power to fire that contractor, grab the tools, and start building palaces of peace, focus, memory, and connection where those prisons now stand. The choice is no longer about a drink. It is about who you will hire to design your mind for the rest of your life. This is Napoleon Inspires. Fire the vandal. You're the architect now.